Hey everyone, welcome to BIZBUZZ, Igniting Success on New Streaming Network. You know, it's been a crazy day for me. How about for you? I am Cece Shatz. I'm the Doyenne of Relationship Building. You are listening to WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, New Streaming Network.com. And we are really the home of going bold and going solo. So we hope that you guys will enjoy the show. We had a guest scheduled for today, but unfortunately, I think something's happened and he's not able to be with us. So we're going to carry on and do the best we can. But I do want to talk to you about growing your podcast, right? So, when I Googled today, I thought, let me see if I have a backup plan just in case, because this gentleman that we were going to have on is very busy. In case something happens, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of information about growing your podcast audience. I've been doing this for like 12 years, right? And it's been one step at a time as I've been moving through this. And it's been a lot of fun and a lot of learning, learning curve for me, because I never thought I'd be doing this type of work. But, as I progress and I learned that marketing is a key to the success of your business if you're looking to podcast. And let me share with you. A lot of people get confused as to what a podcast is. Podcasting is really an audio version of your show, right? We've got a show here that's a video show. We do TV, and then we drop it down into the audio format. We have to do a little bit of editing to that, and then we put it up on all the podcast streaming networks. And so we're on like 59, 58, 57, I don't know how many, but a lot of them, different networks. And then we put it up on our live streaming and live streaming radio, and which was where I started. I started in internet radio, live streaming radio. So I thought to myself, how do I share with those that want to get out there and organically get the message heard? But let me ask you about this, the message, right? Why are you podcasting? Why are you doing a TV show? Why are you putting information up on YouTube? And the reality is that if you think you're going to get rich quick, it's just not going to happen. And, very rare does that happen. But you have to have a reason as to why you're doing this. And if you want to just do it for fun, do it. Yeah, absolutely. I enjoy what I do. I love what I do. It makes me get up in the morning, and I just cannot believe that I'm actually so blessed to do what I'm doing. But if you've got a business or something like that, it's a great voice, right? It's a great place for you to be able to share what you do and be able to get that out. And so if you've got a coaching business or any kind of business that you want some awareness to, like for instance, we've got a great show, Ask Jason White. He's a wonderful attorney. He's actually a coach for attorneys and also an attorney himself. I believe he does civil, and a wonderful gentleman. And so he has a great show that brings awareness to who he is and what he does and what he enjoys doing, right? So you've got to be able to do that, or it's just not worth your time of day if you don't have a reason for doing this. So let's talk a little bit about some steps that you can do to grow your podcast audience. And I would say if you've got a TV show, to grow your TV show, right? The first is the pre-launch, right? As you first start doing it, you want to start to create what it is, the reason, like you said, your target audience, what your avatar, so they call it, what it is that you've got a message for, what you're trying to do, how you want to get out there and be known, right? Then you want to create the podcast, right? The podcast website. Everybody needs a website for their podcast. You need to have something to be able to let people know what you're doing, why you're doing it, who you are, and some fun stuff about you. So you want to create a website for yourself. You can do that many different ways. And, actually it's very nice to do it, or get on somebody's platform, like my platform. I love to have you come on, and we'll create a page for you. So you don't even need, You don't even need a website for yourself. All your information can be shared right there. People can click on it, see your stuff, and be able to do it. But that you might want to create that. If you have a business, you want to create a portion of your website to the podcast or to the TV show that you have. I was shocked not too long ago to find that I had been doing a podcast with someone for, I guess, about 5 years, and they didn't even have it up on their website. It's like, you got to be kidding me. How do people, why are you even doing this if you're not sharing the episodes with your potential audience, right? With your audience and with your potential customers and people that are going to search you and want to do business with you. You must put it up on, if you've got a workable website for your business, you want to definitely put that in, as a key component to your website, because you know what? That makes you stand above, right? It makes you a little bit different, a little bit extra than maybe someone else. So you want to make sure that you do that. The other thing is it creates a flavor for you. So like, let's say, for instance, we have a lot of coaches that are on our network. So why is one coach better than the other coach, right? Especially like, let's say, for instance, you're talking about a divorce coach. Why is one divorce coach better than another coach? The reality is they're truly not, but they have a specialty, right? And they have a personality and they have something that you resonate with. And so that's why you're going to want to go to that particular person. So let's say you hear them in a podcast or you hear them on the TV and you think, they're very interesting. And I like what they had to say about whatever it is that you're going through. And so you check them out on their particular websites, and then you see all the shows that they do, and you're thinking, this person really devotes time and energy to be able to express themselves so that they can share with the public not only the specialty that they do, how good they do it, but also who they are. And I think that's important when we do any kind of business with anyone, that we share with them who we are and what we do. So I believe our guest did come into us today. So we're going to now beeline back. And so if you guys want me to finish up on that episode of how to grow your podcast audience, I'd be happy to share that with you. But we are going to revert back to our wonderful guest that's going to be with us here today. So again, this is our topic, carving out a unique niche in podcasting with Jr Sparrow. And it is amazing when you talk about homing in on your podcast, homing in on a particular niche. And I've been doing that for years with the Singles Network. Now we're broadening into the going bold, right? As you move through your life, you're going boldly into your life. And so this gentleman knows how to do it. So let's bring him up. Hey, JR, how are you?
How are you doing? Sorry about running a little bit late. I'm in
Yeah.
Knoxville, Tennessee, and the storm. Every time I'm about to do something with you, a storm comes. There was a storm that passed through the area, and it knocked out the Wi-Fi in the hotel, so I had to go get my hotspot real fast.
Poor thing, poor thing. Well, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that you've experienced that and that you are with us. We're grateful for that. But you are actually a podcast host, and you're from Lynchburg, Virginia. And
Yeah.
I want everyone to know that. So if you guys are in Lynchburg, you want to make sure that you reach out to him. But you've been doing this podcasting for a long time. You've actually have like I believe three different shows. You've
Yes,
gone
ma'am.
from like comic cons to professional wrestling, the WWE and the AEW. And you're also doing, podcasting. And this is what I find interesting is that wrote this stuff about you. So I'm just going to read it real quickly. So Jr Sparrow's keen interest in podcasting extends beyond his mere creation. He is deeply vested in exploring unconventional methods of podcast discovery. Whether it's introducing video gamers to the world of podcasts as they play on their Xbox or PlayStation, or demonstrating how Snapchat can originally drive listeners to their favorite shows. So those out there that are listening, that are wanting to kind of broaden their audience, right, to podcasting, you're the man, right? You're the man to go to for this. So
100%.
welcome to the show. Thank you so much. We just
Thank you.
love
Thank you so
having
much,
you.
Cece. So with that, I've incorporated a little phrase called listener migration. And with listener migration, and this is the part for all the podcasters. So if you're watching or you're listening later, here's where we're going to get the gems out of the way real quick. Listener migration was something that I started working with because I would see a lot of the things that were taught by the big industry people when we go to these conferences and different things like that. And not every podcast has a funnel to courses or to sell something or to a business. Some creators, such as myself, are purely content creators. I have, I do things to help other people out, but the main goal is a piece of entertainment, a bit of nostalgia. Let's bring something back that we've not talked about. So for me to sell you something that's kind of weird. So along the with the rise of these short form social medias like TikTok and different things like that, I had to figure a way to help people integrate how other people would listen to something and take that into consideration when you're actually producing content. So a great example started off with we can use the video game systems with the exception of Nintendo system. The PlayStation and the Xbox both have apps to listen to podcasting apps. Like they have apps for that are built in. Now Xbox being a Windows model has actual native podcast app called Podcasted that you can use other than Spotify and the other big ones. You can use it and play it in game. So if you're playing a racing game or doing something real calm, you could do it. I'm not saying do it when you're out there playing something intense like Call of Duty, but just or even if you're just at home and that's your speaker, because some people turn on the Xbox and listen to music. Podcasting could be a quick funnel for that. And just like people with the Alexas and the different types of speakers at home, your work at home and your stay at home people, make sure that people, no matter what you're doing in podcasting, realize that these people are listening to your shows. And sometimes these people are going to go in more depth with your shows beyond the normal person that listens to your show on the 15-minute lunch break or their commute to work. So my goal has always been to make sure we meet everybody at their front door. I didn't say we have to be community in all these places, but meet them at their front door so that they know that they're welcome to listen to your content. And if you're someone that has funnels for selling things or different things, that's a way to greet them. And it's not a very time consuming thing. It's just a real simple deal like this. Can I go in a little bit deeper, or you want me to like?
Yeah, we love it. Any knowledge you can give us, we'll take it.
All right. So, for instance, we'll talk about social media. For instance, everybody has their own version of Facebook, as we'll call it. So you've got people that use Tumblr, which it's something that's kind of out there. That's a little wild, but hashtags are driven from that area. So even though it's not something you or I might use, it's still good to let people know that in this Tumblr market that, hey, my podcast is out here. So if it's just a once a month thing, drop a post of your show or something that comes from these podcatchers. And when I say podcatchers, I'm talking about the apps. So for instance, Spotify gives you, which I know Spotify is whatever it is to certain people, but Spotify gives you the most marketing for free if you use it inside other apps. So for my stay-at-home crowd of stay-at-home workers and just stay-at-home parents, I will take Pinterest, which is a place that they like to go find pins and different things. I will pin, say, like the episodes that are niche to me, like your show. I would post this show inside of podcasts that I like. In turn with that, the blog or whatever that I decide to write or whatever kind of caption I do on other social medias would tag these people from Pinterest. So Pinterest people would know that they can migrate to Instagram or to another place if they go there in the evening or that's their stop after Pinterest, so they know that there's a continuum to find me and that everybody's included in it. And I'm going to say this one time and one time only on your show. I'm not saying that you have to be in all these communities every week, every day, but you have 30 days in a month and everybody has 15 minutes every day that you can set aside for something, when you're building your show and doing things like that. So we'll use that. So we did Pinterest right there. So the Pinterest people are set up there. Advertising on Facebook, Instagram, and all these places, determining, like once you determine your niche in podcasting, that's where it varies in how you market and advertise. So if your show is about being a life coach, for instance, or helping people, that you can use groups from these certain social medias to help you grow organically. But there's a hack to this. And that's where the Snapchat stuff comes in. Now, with Snapchat, we all know that if you're not familiar with Snapchat, I'll just give you a quick rundown. It's an app that uses geolocation called a snap map to place things out there in the world. So, for instance, my age demographic for my show is 27 to 72, which that's pretty big. And what I do is, for instance, the 27 to 34 crowd, I know that they're going to be on Snapchat way more than anyone else. But when you introduce social media to other people, you have families that will teach down the line or up the line about these services. So Snapchat is a way to find items when you're not there. So for instance, I'm in Knoxville right now. So I'm going to take your show after we're done. I'm going to use Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Pandora because they allow that sharing feature. Apple does not. And I'm going to share your show at the University of Tennessee and whatever that little gold thing is downtown so that your show is present there. And the guidelines for using Snapchat, and I tell everybody this is not a place for you to add fans because it does use your location. So you have to have some kind of security. So what I do is I set up it's not a business account. I set up a personal account for my podcast. I do not add anyone to it. I keep the location on that. So when I go to places like, for instance, I'll be leaving Knoxville and I'm heading to Gainesville, Florida, in the next day, but I'm driving. So, I'm going to go through Atlanta, Chattanooga, and all these places. Anybody that's incorporated with me, doesn't matter what their show is, I'm going to drop it in prominent locations that make sense for their show. So if you're a business show, I'll definitely drop you off at Epson and different places that make sense for you. But tying back into what is great about Snapchat, if you use Snapchat or you become friends with different people in different parts of the world in the United States that have Snapchat, you can drop your show off. You can even start your show 10 seconds, 30 seconds in so people can just start listening to it right then and there in case you got ads or something in the front. And these people can listen to your show in any of these locations for up to 24 months. Wow. So what you do here is, just for example, we'll use something famous, Carnegie Hall. If you place your show at Carnegie Hall on the Snap Map, you've done the marketing right there. So Carnegie Hall, every time it has an event, people do get on the Snap Map and look at things. So they're going to click on your show. So you got the advertisement from anything that happens at Carnegie Hall. So that's organic growth that you didn't spend money on. And it's the greatest word of mouth that you can get, because what you can do as a podcaster after you've put out this type of promotion, you do a simple call to action, bring those people, make them alert that they can give you an email address or something like that, which is not being pushy, but saying, hey, I want to know who's really listening to my show. We get statistics you and I know all day long, but these people, since you didn't add them on Snapchat or anything, these people can just directly come to you and say, hey, I'm this person that looked at this and that. And you can go back and look at the analytics and find that person. And if they're providing an email address, you just got the email address you've been wanting, instead of having to play this cat and mouse mystery game that we do when we want to find people that actually listen to our shows. Because that's one thing that gets lost in the hustle and the mix of things. Okay, so that's the scenario one with Snapchat. So the second part of Snapchat, which is amazing, is with a show staying in place like that, it gives you a repurpose to your shows. Because me and you both know we record so many shows. We repurpose it for the next 6 months, but after 6 months, it goes into an archive and we forget about it. But Snapchat doesn't do that, because someone may come to an area. So I'll give you an example. We were doing a show, Sparrows in a Review with my fiance. We were doing a show about Taylor Swift. She had just did the concert thing and all that stuff, and then the new album came out like a week ago. Well, nobody's listened to that show in like 2 months, but all because of where we put it in Indianapolis and different locations, people found it and started listening to it again on the merit that she released a new album. So you get repurposed from this one app, and it's a free app. It doesn't cost you anything. The only thing that you have to do is, if you decide to build a community, do that. If you don't decide to build a community, you can just, wherever you're traveling, even if you're staying in your home state, you know that you got prominent places to put it, your local grocery store, this place and that place, because people are always looking for ways to listen to podcasts than word of mouth or the ordinary, just a simple recommendation. Because I'll be 100% honest with you. When someone recommends a podcast to me, I've got to think about if I really want to listen to it. But if I find it, or if I discover it in a way that's comfortable for me, instead of someone telling me, I can go with that. So that's kind of like the parts of listener migration that I try to help out with. And
that's remarkable. I've often said, because like when I first started, they said, well, just put it on your website, don't just, and I said, well, not everybody's going to go. I want you to go to my website, but not everybody's going to go to my website. I got to go where they're at. And so I think you have hit on something, the fact that, Snapchat and whatever, you're where the gamers and stuff, you're going where they are. And why not, if you're doing something, like you said, then they can listen to, and these young people, right? They multitask like crazy, right? And so
Yeah.
they can play a game and listen to a podcast without a problem, right? And so, yeah, I think you're smart. I think you're smart by doing this. There should be no not do this. I mean, it should be, let's try this and see if it's going to work out, right?
Right. Trial and error. So
Mhm.
I'll tell you this. So the next portion that's crazy with all of this listener migration and stuff is this part right here. Carving out your niche, like you were talking about here. All right.
Yeah.
So here are some prominent keys in carving out your niche. And this is what I've learned. And this is in doing a society culture show and doing a review show. The review show is cut and dry. We don't even have to speak on that one. Society culture is probably the hardest one because you've got to figure out what society and what part of culture are you trying to reach this week and that week, and what type of impact you're going to have. So the first thing that I started with when I started podcasting, I put out 10 episodes. And I did my best to find 10 other podcasters that I didn't know, not listeners, but 10 podcasters. And I asked each one of them to listen to an episode, and I would listen to an episode of their show. So that's a little lengthy thing that I did there. And each podcaster was from a niche that I wasn't a part of, but I had done a topic in their niche. So the feedback that I got was that I did a good show about what they're talking about, but my shows went all over the place. There was no curation. So from that point on, after that 10 episodes, I started curating. You have 4 weeks in every month. Sometimes you got a little extra, and you can put out as many shows as you want, but let's just go with the normal 4 shows. Well, each show that I started doing to carve myself into a niche was like this. I curated I would get 4 shows, 4 guests, but 4 in the same principle or the same degree.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want to make comparisons, but I would see what episode to me was the strongest, which was in the middle, and which one was the weakest. The weaker episode would be the first episode I would do to build an audience, which most people will say that's opposite of what you should do. But I didn't want to see a dwindling. I wanted to see a rise in action. So from there to the middle, once you get into the middle of a topic and people have started listening, people fall off, but more people will come because they'll see that it's getting stronger. It's getting more emphasis on topics. So that's how I carved out my way in a unique niche. Is I made sure that whenever I was curating, that I went from weak to strong. Which I'm telling everybody, like we talked about this earlier, trial and error with these things, because your strongest episode may go better in a descending order. So
Right.
I did that, and that's where I built up the base. And then I had to do the hardest thing that you have to do as a content creator, because we are content creators. I had to decide this one thing. How much time could I obligate to a community? How much time could I make a place that people could contact me so we could develop a level of intimacy? Because everyone wants to have an intimacy to the person that they're hearing. You want to be that person's best friend. You want to be that person's whatever. So to do that, I didn't do like everybody else. I didn't go over here and get a million different apps, like a messaging app so they could do this, or an email, because some people are not comfortable with emails, because some people treat emails like we do real mail. We look at the good stuff and the stuff that's important. The rest of it we kind of sling to the side. Me and you could easily end up in someone's spam box. I didn't want that to happen. So I found an area which it was originally Discord. I went to Discord, and that was a place that I could set up community, and I had it all in one area, and we weren't going across Instagram, DMs, Facebook, and all this other stuff. I had one central location, which I tell everybody, find whatever area works for you. If it is emails, stick to the emails. If it's a messaging app, or if you're technical enough to create your own messaging app or something through your website, do something like that. But find a place that people can come directly to you. You don't have a place people can come directly to you, that deters them to go into the second part of what I want to talk about, the after podcast. The after podcast, to me, and this is what makes you unique and will carve a niche for you, is your show notes. When I poll my listeners tell me that before the show, they read the show notes. They don't even take a minute to listen to the show. People that know the show. People that are new to the show read the show notes also, before they even give me a listen. So that's something that I carved out, and by word of mouth or by whatever, people understand. Read those show notes first to see if this is something you want to get entertained with. And I make sure I provide links to whatever you're offering and different things like that. Because when you do these things, it makes it a whole lot easier and a whole lot stronger for someone that wants to listen to your show but wants to go further with you. You're ready to click through things. And I'm not saying sales funnel or anything, but I'm just saying get more into your ecosystem. That was the thing that I did to carve out, and that's what helped me get more exposure in my niche, because people will say, hey, he's an authority on this one thing. So for example, I am a movie projector guy, like the portable ones. Everybody knows you come to me when you want to talk about that kind of stuff. I've proven, I've got videos, this is, and that. I show that, I go out here, I review, or professional wrestling, for instance. You come to me when you want to get some inside stuff because I'm going to the major events. So
Right.
in building those things, that's kind of like how I, carve my niche basically.
Very good, very good. Yeah, I think it's really important to kind of home down to what it is that you want to do, because you want to create a voice, right? A voice for yourself. And so, and often my friend always says, you want to be heard, be seen, be known, right? And so it's very important if you don't carve in your niche of what it is that you want to do. And yeah, I think it's great. I think you've got some great ideas and some new way of going. I mean, we're on Twitch, which is the part of the gamers, and
Yes.
so we're on that. I don't know how many listen to about divorce, but but we are on there, and but the dating stuff does well on there. But yeah, so we have some of those things, and we do Pinterest is big. I've always been surprised with that, the Pinterest,
Right.
how many people listen to us on Pinterest. It's amazing. But yeah, you're absolutely right with being able to go out and do something different, and not stop there, because you keep going further, like what am I doing, what was I doing yesterday, what am I going to do today, now what am I going to do tomorrow, right? And so
Yes.
you're really that type of guy that is always looking towards the future as to what we can do. So now tell us a little bit about the shows that you do have, because I do want people to listen to you.
Okay.
Tell us about, because I know you've got a couple different ones. So tell us
All right.
about
So,
them.
so this is crazy. The first show I'm going to tell you about is my archival show, and that is
Mhm.
West Virginia and Commonplace presents the collection. What I did there is my base show is West Virginia and Commonplace, and West Virginia and Commonplace has over 500 episodes. So I would never expect someone to go through the whole catalog and listen to everything. So the archival show, I take the best episodes, and when I say best, it's not necessarily based on downloads or anything like that. The ones that I seem to have the best quality and I get the most reaction or engagement from, and I
Mhm.
re-release those on this archival podcast so people can, which is every Monday, so that people can find these shows without having to dig through all that stuff on West Virginia Commonplace. Now, the meat and butter. West Virginia Commonplace was a brainchild of mine. It stemmed from another show that I was previously a part of, which was just called The Uncommon Place. And I wanted to tell stories about West Virginia, but then I realized that I started going off in other areas. It became a variety show for a while. So what I had to do was I had to start niching down in this sense. I carved out every month to be a different topic and genre to cover for the whole month,
Oh,
so that
wow.
I didn't encompass myself into just doing mental health all the time. I wanted people to know about this nostalgia. I wanted them to give the intimacy of what it's like to be a person that's 38 years old. I was born in 1985, considered one of the greatest generations, because I was with the technology that started out my parents and everyone else that's before me. And then I went into the middle age, the 90s and the early 2000s, which were a time that nobody will ever know but you and I.
Mhm.
And then we're in this era now because I was born with a computer. I was taught to use a computer, but the computer wasn't emphasized until I was an adult. And so like my age, my generation is a weird generation because we lived through all this stuff, just like yours. But
Mhm.
in mine, it was something that was enforced on us. You had to know how to work a computer. You
Right.
know, and like my mom, like with them, you had to know how to use a typewriter back then. If you didn't know how to use a typewriter, if you didn't know how to do that, you might not make it somewhere. You might not get that job at the office. Because computers were big, but they were big things back then. You know,
Yeah.
so West Virginia and Commonplace encompass that part of me, like the nostalgia about, we lost brick and mortar places, we've lost businesses, we've lost restaurants, we've lost department stores, we've lost food. You can barely find a movie theater now. I mean, there's some here and there, but in bigger cities and stuff, they keep them. But these rural areas, they're just getting crushed. So I try to cover all that stuff like that, and then just the human interaction to stories that are very uncommon. Um, just an example, I had a lady on my show that goes to thrift stores, buys paintings, and then puts rhinestones on them and then resells them at high dollar value from
Mm,
something she only paid $2 for. But she's the rhinestone lady, so she makes money like that.
yeah.
Now, the next show, or the last one, Sparrows Under Review, is a review show that I do with my fiance Stacy, which helps me on the other show. And Sparrows Under Review is our hobby show. The show is monetized, but it's our hobby show because whenever we go to restaurants or something's interesting, sometimes it's TV and movies. So it's a lot of that most of the time, professional wrestling and things like that. That's where I took the portions that were in West Virginia and Commonplace and put them over in this, so that we can go to these events, these Comic Cons, these wrestling events, these not Met Gala stuff, nothing like that yet, but where we can go do things outside of the ordinary for me to do, because basically, me as the video game wrestling guy. But, we go to these Comic Cons, we go to these different events, we go to restaurants, and they comp us to come there to review these and certain ones. And the last review that actually came out, they didn't comp us. That was something local we did to let people know about the local restaurants and stuff like that. So the hobby podcast to me is my favorite podcast now, because I can let some of the control go, and I can do things with it that make sense and that are fun. I might review the TV show MASH, why it's considered the greatest show and why it was on for so long at that time. Would that show last now? Probably not. But back then, it was considered one of the greatest shows, right?
Yeah, it was great. It was a great show. I used to love it.
You're right. It went to these, with just me for nostalgia. It was MASH, then Cheers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Cheers. Yeah.
usually that's how it sits on people's table. And then in my generation, our greatest shows, and I hate to say it, is The Simpsons. The Simpsons, and then you may be able to figure something else out. But just like that, you see a little smile came on your face with that nostalgia, because you went back and thought about it, and you heard the MASH theme in your head, and you might go watch an episode of MASH this evening now. So
Yeah. We used to watch it all the time, MASH and the Cheers. I like Cheers better than MASH, but yeah.
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 So
Yeah,
that's what
great.
the last show is my favorite one, because it's just fun, just like we
Mhm.
had right there.
Right, right. Well, what I'm hearing from you is, if you're going to do a podcast or you're going to do something, you've got to, or TV show, you've got to have a reason for doing it, number one. And if you don't have a reason for it, it better be something you truly enjoy, right? It's got to
Yes.
be a part of you, a part of your existence, what you love. And because if you're doing it for pure entertainment, right? And also information. I think you share a great deal of information with people as you're coming to them with some entertainment. We learn a lot through entertainment, believe it or not.
Yes,
So
we
yeah,
do.
for sure, for sure. But yeah, I love that. And you're one busy guy. I mean, I know we tried to have you on before, and I was like, oh no, we're not going to get him this time. But yeah, I am so pleased that we were able to have you on here today.
And yes, and once again, I wholeheartedly apologize about the delay. Uh,
No, no worries, no worries. It happens. We're in internet world, and that's what happens in internet. But yeah,
yes.
we're happy to have you. Well, we're gonna have to close out the show. Is there anything particular you want to share, or anything like that? Do you want to share any kind of contact information or whatever? I mean, just
Yeah, definitely reach me across wvuncommonplace@gmail.com. And the last thing I want to leave for content creators and podcasters is this one thing. Whenever you're out here creating things, create them for yourself first. And then when you get that first acknowledgement back from someone, realize that you're creating it for other people. And when you're creating for other people, don't break away from the authenticity that's you. Too many people get carried away with this narrative that, oh, I'm getting some popularity, so I need to change things. Add things, but don't change things. Add things, because that's what that gives you an evolution in podcasting. When you start changing things up, people notice.
yeah, I agree. And that's how I started. I started with divorce recovery, which is I was going through a terrible divorce. So I totally agree with that. I mean, I think that as you evolve, a piece of you goes along with it. So yeah, so you definitely want to do that. I do love that. And of course, anyone out there listening, if you want to have your shows distributed, we'd love to have you on our network, the newstreamingnetwork.com, and going bold. So we would love to have you. So definitely contact us. But thank you so much for being on the show today. I appreciate you and all that you do.
Thank you very much.
That is great. Well, you guys, you're listening to the Biz Buzz Igniting Success on New Streaming Network. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I am Cece Shatz, your host. You're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, and of course, the newstreamingnetwork.com. Check out our Roku channel because we're up there. We've got all of our shows on there, and I hope that you'll enjoy them. You just go to New Streaming TV. So New Streaming TV is our app, and so we hope that you'll join us with that. So we love you. We want to thank you so much for joining us. I hope you found this to be informative, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye for now.